Bigots on the ballot are the shameful dark side of our politics right now, and they are running as Republicans. So let's discuss now with David Jolly, a former Republican congressman from Florida, CNN political commentators Alice Stewart and Angela Rye. Good evening. You guys saw Tom Foreman's piece. Just to remind you and our viewers, not that you need reminding, but in case people weren't watching before the break, I want to take a look at some of the candidates again. These men have promoted some pretty terrible views, and they're on the ballot as Republicans. What is it, Alice, about our current political climate that is bringing these candidates out of the woodworks and stamping them with the label of GOP?
Well, Don, unfortunately, it starts at the top, and we have a president that says things that are outside of the norm, that have not been said before, and a lot of people have stood behind him in that regard, and that's where we are right now. And the civility in Washington has gone down tremendously. That being said, the story we just saw and what we're talking about, these are the dark side and the disturbing side. Fortunately, it is not the majority of people in the Republican Party, and the Republican Party is the party of limited government, fiscal responsibility, and ethical values and life and liberty. And these are a small majority of people of the Republican Party, and unfortunately, we are seeing more of them, but I'm grateful for the fact it's a small majority.
Okay, listen. Look, I hope it's not the majority of the Republican Party, but the fact is that most of the Republican Party supported Trump, who you just said is promoting this, who's emboldening people. I don't want to disparage any party, or I don't want to cast aspersions on any group, but it does seem that if you're not racist, right, you're at least overlooking it, and you're supporting it by when you go to the ballot, or by not, and ballot box and voting for these people, or by not denouncing it when your president espouses some of these views. Am I wrong in that assessment?
No. Look, Don, I lost a lot of sleep over the last several years working for candidates that are men of honor and integrity and dignity, and unfortunately they were not the party's nominee. And in the end, I voted for someone that I viewed would, at least the number one issue for me was Supreme Court justices. I worked really, really hard for candidates for our party that would bring dignity to the office. Unfortunately, that was not the case, and this is where we are today.
All right, I want to get other people. I don't mean to cut you off, but David, did you want to say something?
I do. I love Alice's optimism, but I disagree very strongly and almost angrily with it, because this is where Donald Trump has given permission to elements of the party that past nominees and past leaders of the Republican Party have shut down. Ronald Reagan spoke to the better angels. Bush 41 to 1,000 points of light. Frankly, Bill Clinton spoke to empathy. I feel your pain. Bush 43 to compassionate conservatism. Barack Obama to hope. Donald Trump spoke to anger. And where John McCain said to that woman in a very pivotal moment in his campaign, a town hall, where he said, no, Barack Obama is a good guy. Actually, Donald Trump took the exact opposite path and said Barack Obama is a bad guy, and Democrats are bad people, and Democrats support criminals. Donald Trump has given permission to what we are seeing in all of these viral videos, which are very important right now. The Puerto Rican woman who is assaulted at a park because she has rented, she's wearing a shirt. The woman who confronts a young black African-American person selling candy bars at a Walmart. Donald Trump has given permission to that element. So I do appreciate and understand the optimism that Alice is speaking to, but I disagree so strongly. It is why people like me in the Republican Party cannot accept Donald Trump's leadership.
Go ahead, Angela.
So I think that the challenge I have here, and Congressman Jolly, I respect you greatly. Alice, I respect you. I just have a problem with revisionist history. I have a problem with the fact that we continue to make it seem like racism all of a sudden was discovered, right, with Donald Trump. That's not really the case. I remember when Michael Steele was damn near ostracized and kicked out of the RNC. I remember when the Barack the Magic Negro ad came out. I remember when birtherism was a thing. I remember when there was racism tied to the war on drugs with Ronald Reagan. I remember all of these things and what has happened over time, not just in the Republican Party, because the Democrats have blood on their hands too. It's just not equal. Is we have allowed covert racism to surface, and now it's overt. That is all that's happened, because for years we pretended like covert racism wasn't really that thing. We pretended like it wasn't the undercover N-word. We pretended like calling people ghetto and hood rats wasn't racism, and all of the time it was. And now that thing has become volatile and angry and violent. That is the problem. We cannot continue to say that racism just surfaced. It's been here. This country was built on that. We cannot turn our minds we can't do that.
Go ahead, Congressman.
We have moved, but under Trump we have moved from silence to permission, and that's fair. The change. Yeah. And that is the change we can't accept.
But how do you respond to this? Because Tom reeled off this statistic or this poll in his tag to me, and I think it deserves exploring a little bit more. A recent Quinnipiac University poll has a striking result. 49% of people said that they believe President Donald Trump to be a racist, while 47% believe he's not. So 49%, that's half of the country. 86% of Republicans say Trump isn't racist. 86% of Democrats say he is. What's going on here? I think that is striking, Alice. You don't?
It is. And look, I think this is a very, as we heard Angela, it's an extremely emotional issue. It's a disturbing issue. And in my view, look, Donald Trump has the highest approval rating amongst Republicans than any president has had in decades. And that is not because Republicans are looking at him for the disgusting things he says with regards to race or women or many other issues, but they stand behind him for his policies and what he's doing for jobs and what he's doing for the economy. They are not using race to define him. They are using that as one aspect of him, and Republicans are standing behind him.
Alice, let me ask you respectfully,
though. It's not all. It's
but
not.
How can you look over race? How can you overlook race? How can you overlook sexism? How can you overlook decorum? Like, there's so many things that you have to overlook just because you want a little bit more in your tax money. Okay, so then buy one less Christmas present. Or that you want a Supreme Court, you want someone who's going to give you the Supreme Court justice that you want, even though that person does not follow the rules that you have espoused your entire time about divorce, about cheating, about the way you treat people, about the way you treat children. So I don't understand. This is for me. Help me, please understand that. How can you overlook all of these things? If someone talks crap about my mother, about my sister, about my loved ones, about you, Alice, who I love, how then do I support that person because I just want a little bit more money? I just want this person on the Supreme Court. I can't do it. I don't see it. I don't understand that. I just don't get it. Help me.
You can't overlook it, Don. It's a bright light, and that bright light's an oncoming train, and you cannot overlook it. But at the end of the day, like I said, he wasn't my first, second, third, fourth, or fifth choice for the Republican nominee, but he ended up being the party's nominee. And I am a Republican. I'm going to support Republican candidates when that is the.
But if the party nominates Hitler, you're going to vote for him? I mean, that's what I don't get.
That's a far-fetched hypothetical in my view, Don.
But I'm saying what you're saying, though. But it's not. It sounds like what you're saying is it doesn't matter who this person is at his core, as long as he is a Republican. That's the point I'm trying to make. Mr. Jolly, do you understand that?
Don, I hate these conversations because it forces Republicans to confront a reality that I believe, which is this president is racist. And whether that is a result of some type of financial elitism, whether it is because of being born on third base through white privilege, or whether it is a part of Steve Bannon's nationalism, this is why traditional Republicans struggle with his leadership. We can't forgive it. We can't normalize it. We can't suggest that he can be the figure of a party that we subscribe to. It's heartbreaking. It's not an easy conversation. It sucks. Everything about it sucks. But this is the president, and he is the leader of the Republican Party, and he continues to peddle what is very clearly racist tendencies.
I just want to say, Congressman, like, I wish that the new members, the folks who have followed in your footsteps could at least acknowledge that. Like, that's all so many of us are saying. And at this point, I'm emotional.
And let's fix it.
Because we cannot, like, it's like being constantly gaslit. We're constantly being told, I'm told every day I'm on air that I'm racist because I call out racism. That is maddening to me, and I'm crying about it because it's crazy. And I wish that somebody who's a colleague of mine, like Alice, could at least acknowledge that fact. Like, that is so frustrating. We're supposed to be talking about a 12-year-old boy who was just trying to deliver newspapers, and the police are called on him in Ohio, where Tamir Rice was killed, in the same age. I want to be acknowledged and seen that this is not okay for our children. This is not okay for the future direction of this country. So I want to say, I commend you for saying what you said. It means the world to me.
Okay, quickly, Congressman, because
And
Alice needs to
our
respond.
president has given permission to that.
Yeah, go ahead, Alice. I think Alice should respond.
Angela, I love you, and it breaks my heart to hear you talk like that and feel that, and I hate that you feel that way. This is such an emotional issue, and I think the point that you made, it is so awful to admit, is that this has been going on for many, many years, and it is boiling over the surface now. In my view, the only takeaway in the bright light of this is that we're able to have these conversations and talk about them. And I hate, and I'm sorry that you feel like you do, but I think it's important to have these conversations and see what we can do to come together. And as we're learning more and more every day, the efforts to tear us apart, I think at the end of the day will bring us closer together.